I wanted to start this video with a dramatic representation of what could have happened on Mars thousands of years ago. The images are fantastic and very suggestive, excerpts from well-known movies and a dramatic representation of what could happen on Earth if an asteroid crashes in our planet. This is something that perhaps happened on Mars for real. The area of these findings, it is still the Norcluft Plateau and the Gale crater. I believe what we are seeing here is what is left of a huge Martian city. As usual at first, especially if you just look at the raw image, everything has been camouflaged by NASA to look like rocks. This area was photographed by Curiosity on Mars Sol Day 1282. This place is one of the ridges of my last video, the day Mars burned. On this ridge, the evidences are many, and they stretch for thousands of meters. Most of them do not even need to be highlighted or being pointed out, especially once we zoom in. There are many ruins that clearly shows that they are remains of large metallic structures. As I said, the remains of a large city, or at least a very complex series of structures, once stood here. Even if I have highlighted some area, many remains of large buildings and parts of other structures are clearly visible. What at first may seem just a hill, when we zoom in we realize that it is just a pile of all sorts of debris, all tangled together by the forces of what obliterated this place. A distracted viewer may see those just rocks, but if you look with some attention you may realize that instead, they might be foundations of large buildings, large structures, or even pieces of roads. Let's continue to explore some of the most obvious pieces of evidence that here long time ago there was a city. This next close-up clearly shows the remains of a large and artificially made structure. It's difficult to make out what once this belonged to, but we can clearly see these perfect long and apparently metal beams that follow this slope. Perhaps they are not beams, maybe pipes. Your guess is good as mine, but whatever they are not natural. Very close to the beams, there is this object, or it would be better calling it a bundle of objects. I am sure that some people may view this as just rocks. Very odd rocks. Nevertheless, rocks. Sorry to burst your brainwashed bubble, but this is not a rock hanging off the edge of this hill. You do not need to be a geologist to see that this is not a rock, but the remains of the same structure to what those beams belong to. This seems to be twisted and tangled metal. At the bottom of the two beams, we can see these undoubtedly not natural structures. They seem to be ruins of what once was here. They are arched and they seem to lead inside or underneath the beams. Also, as you can see, all over around there are all sorts of other large debris and metallic parts. Definitely, these are ruins and proofs of a catastrophic event. The debris, ruins, structure parts and not natural objects are scattered everywhere we look, as you are seeing in these close-ups and the many more coming after these. NASA went a great length to make this area to appear as just as a desolate rocky place. Many may ask, why would NASA do such a thing? After all, they are trying to find proof of life in the universe. It is my conviction that NASA has already found proof of extraterrestrial life in the universe. Mars' fate and past, it's nothing new for them and for the world governments, with the US being the first. The conspiracy theories about it are many and they come in many colors and flavors, but the greatest is the conspiracy that both NASA and the governments are carrying out to keep us, mere mortals, in the dark for who knows what reason. This photo close-up detail, and the next two zoomed-in details, seem to show some vehicles and or machines parts. It is hard to say what they might really be. Definitely, these artifacts have a precise structure and design. From other photos of this area, we know that there were also many vehicles and military type of machines and weapons. that perhaps were here to either defend themselves or be ready for the aftermath of the catastrophe. But, whatever the reasons were for them to be here, today we can see what it is left of them in the colder, dusty place that their planet has become. Definitely, I would like to challenge any scientists, geologists, and trolls to explain to us how these can be rocks. What do you think these are? Write your thoughts in the comments below. Let's continue to look at more debris. As you see, as we move to different areas, the number of anomalies and debris does not diminish. Everything that in the raw image looked like the usual boring rocks, once we lightly enhance them they show their real identity. These objects are not natural. These are the remains of Mars' ancient life, testimonies of the intelligent beings who created them. What are these objects? Write in the comments what you believe what they might be. This next close-up shows a piece of very compelling evidence supporting the possibility that we are indeed looking at the site of a destroyed Martian city. What you see here continues adding more proof that these objects cannot be natural, created and made by inhabitants of Mars. The shape of this first object curves in a very unnatural way, and also it seems clearly made out of metal. And what about all these other objects around it? Do you still have doubts about what you're seeing? Nothing here is a rock. 90% of what you are seeing here is debris and pieces of evidence that Mars had life, intelligent life, and a very advanced civilization. I know that for some, it's difficult to look at these images and believe that these are proof of life on another planet. The mainstream science propaganda, under the control of hidden powers, has for generations controlled the narrative about life in the universe. Even if these were retouched images, to make everything to look like rocks, whoever did it, left enough unhidden to make possible for us to find it out. Perhaps this is an attempt to disclose the truth without disclosing it. If you are a skeptic, or an agent of the propaganda, you will refuse to believe what you are seeing, but inside you, you know that what we are saying and showing is the real truth. This area, it's a smoking gun, but, if you refuse to believe your own eyes, this will be just another crazy conspiracy video. This last highlighted object seems to be either the carving of the head of an animal resembling our dinosaurs, or it is an actual dinosaur's skull. What's your opinion? As we continue to scan this photo, here is something that if it was on Earth, we would not hesitate to recognize what it is. Ancient ruins of a settlement of some sort. Here is a comparison with one of our ancient archaeological sites. We can see remains of walls, and ruins of other structures that are not random, but built with a clear design and purpose. Perhaps this was a building or a temple. We know by the large number of statues had found all over this area, that the Martians were not so different from us. They probably worshipped some type of gods, or, as in our ancient history, they glorified heroes. Do you think that this is so far-fetched? These ruins seem to have an anomaly within itself. Here is a strange object or objects, clearly of a metallic nature, that do not seem to fit the surroundings. What is this? Is this something more recent? It could be that someone or something else was or it is on Mars? What do you think? This object and the next one definitely do not fall in the category of rocks. You can see that has rectangular shapes and 90 degrees angles. We can see that these objects are parts of more complex structures, torn apart by the extinction event that hit Mars. These artifacts have sustained an incredible blow to make them look like this, twisted, melted and deformed from their original shapes. You don't need to be an expert or a scientist to see that these pieces are not natural. Therefore, someone must have made them. What makes me believe that this place had a city that was obliterated by a powerful event? It's the fact that all three mounds of debris that we've seen so far have something very close that looks like explosion craters. We can unmistakably see that there is debris inside and all over around the edges, as you see in this highlighted animation. Also, the ruins of large structures and a pile of debris are visibly laying across the edges of this blast impact. As we move toward the end of this presentation and of this photo, we can see more pieces of evidence that confirm that we are looking at the ruins of a Martian city, inhabited perhaps by hundreds of thousands of people. The camera is panning around the edge of this other blast crater. As you see, more unnatural objects stand out from what seem to be rocks, but I doubt they are. The whole slope looks like an archaeological site, more than rock formations. In the description of this video I have included a link for these raw images. You can check for yourself and investigate this area. As we zoom into this spot, we can easily see that looks like another archaeological site, as we have seen previously. Here appears to be more ruins of a structure or a series of structures, ruined pieces of walls, perimeter areas that distinguish the presence of structures. Fallen pieces of metal and other elements can be seen here, in these massive debris. You can also see forms of objects that doubtless are not natural, like this arch visible here. But there are also large objects that do not appear to have been destroyed, unless they were below ground level. They look like machines or parts of them. But whatever it is, this detail has nothing natural or geological in it. We have reached the final part of this photo, and what we have seen adds proof on proof that we are in the presence of the ruins of an ancient Martian city, which, like everything else around it, suffered the same fate as the areas I presented in my previous videos. This video could easily be considered a continuation of the previous one, which I titled The Day That Mars Burned. Gale Crater not only had an ocean, but also a city. Maybe more than one, and without doubt, a lot of people lived here.